Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Friday, the 15th day of November, 2024, Friday of the 32nd week of the year, 32nd week in Ordinary Time. And as you can see, I am back from the desert. It's a very cool day. It's a cloudy day. It was still the rains that were here, I guess, yesterday or over the weekend. Over the week, have kind of passed through, but still the clouds remain. It should clear a little bit later on today. But it is very cool and a little bit chilly. A different kind of cool and chilly than in the desert, but still very nice. As you can see, our pomegranates, some have been harvested already, but there's still a couple left on the trees. So if you want to try one of our homegrown pomegranates here from the courtyard of the Franciscan School, come and get them before the birds peck into them or the squirrels come to get them to enjoy for their own Thanksgivings that they might be having already. So on this Friday of the 32nd week of the year, we move to the second letter of John, basically for one day. So Philemon yesterday is basically just a one chapter letter with a number of verses. The same thing is true of the second letter of John. Now, there are three letters that the Apostle John writes. The second one we hear because it is about the understanding of, again, that theme of unity and being aware of who we are called to be and what we are called to be as believers in the world. So all three of the letters of John basically try to tackle the understanding of who and what this Jesus is, and what he represents, for human beings and their relationship with God and their relationship with one another. So each of the letters sent to a Christian community, which really isn't named in some ways. I don't believe it is, but a Christian community that is dealing with a lot of turmoil because a lot of different kinds of ideas of Jesus are springing up, and the whole question is which is the right understanding of who Christ is and what is the true understanding of the mission of Christ. It is interesting that though this second letter begins with a reference to a chosen lady, again, chosen sense of elected, so appointed again by God. Is it figurative? Is the lady the Christian community that's there? Is that an understanding that can arise at this time the letter is written to refer to the church in feminine terminology, where Christ is the masculine terminology within this? Does it refer to a leader of the Christian community who happens to be a female? Again, you don't want to go too far afield, with any of this, but it does raise kind of interesting questions about who this lady is and what she represents. It's in some cases, it is a feminine name, Kyria, which can mean Lord or lady, in Greek. It's the feminine of Lord, to be lady in Greek. But again, it's referring to a person or to the community itself. In any event, Paul writing, to this community who has children, so the sense is the leader, feminine or not, or what's going on, but the children are the members of this community. And Paul or John writes to them basically to be aware, of those who are thinking, first off, to continue to grow in love, and to never forget that love is what binds you, and that love is what makes you who and what you are as members of this movement, as members of this body of Christ, of this new relationship with God. Then it goes on to basically talk about this. The second letter talks about those who have progressive thinking. So is it an anti-liberal kind of letter that's written, again, in this day and age? Does anybody, like liberals, or liberals have taken a beating and what have you? And is it good to have liberals in the church? It's not something that is against, progressive thinking, but it's against progressive thinking that is leading people astray from what it is that Christ was teaching. So if it's not teaching that is based upon love, is not teaching that is based upon unity, that kind of progressive thinking is not thinking that is appropriate for Christians. It's not a way of life that is appropriate for Christians. And so John is counseling and warning the community against that, because that's not who we are. So it doesn't mean progressive and liberal as we understand it today, or progressive and conservative as we understand it today, but it's those who are trying to misinterpret, this word that has come to the Christian community from Christ, the word that has built up the Christian community. Make sure that you know what you're talking about when you talk about Christ, which involves, research, which involves study, which involves, time to reflect and to discern truly what is of Christ, which is true in any day and any age. In Luke's Gospel, chapter 17, it's the kind of the insight into the coming again of the Son of Man, to the end of time. Again, as we're moving towards the end of the church year, our 32nd week that we are concluding this week, the understanding of what it means to be vigilant and to continue to be vigilant, even though it seems as though Christ is taking a long time in coming, and it isn't, it isn't on the horizon. At times we can tend to forget about it. This is where, for Luke, and again, he seems to kind of append a couple of sayings to a kernel that Jesus is speaking about being attentive and being vigilant, for the coming of the Son of Man. These extra kind of verses that are kind of added to it are those that lead into ideas of rapture and all kinds of things that Hollywood just loves to do, and a lot of Christians like to misinterpret too. Again, talking about progressive, where God only chooses some and neglects others, that whole idea about Left Behind and all that other kind of series and things like that. Don't misrepresent or don't misread what Luke is trying to remember what Jesus said, and what Luke is adding to what Jesus said. It's the whole idea of being vigilant, and if you're not vigilant, if you get weary, or if you get lost, and are not awaiting the coming of the Son of Man, you will miss it, when it comes. And you don't want that to happen to you. Now, are those that are left behind lost? Are those that are left behind, closed out or shut out? That is not said, and that is not mentioned, at all. But it's the whole idea. What's more important is not being shut out, but being aware and being ready for when the Son of Man returns, to be ever vigilant, for finding the signs and finding the ways in which the Son of Man is returning constantly into our lives, and to be able to live our life in light of that return. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.